Your Hulagu Khan, grandson of Genghis Khan. The year is 1257. Your grandfather conquered more territory than any human in history. From Korea to Hungary, from Siberia to India. An empire so vast that it takes a year to cross it on horseback. But there's one city your grandfather never took. Baghdad, the city of peace, capital of the Abbasid Caliphate, the richest, most cultured city in the Islamic world. 1 million people behind walls that have never fallen. Your grandfather died before he could conquer it. You're about to finish what he started it. And you're going to do it in a way that ensures no one ever forgets. Here's the thing about the Mongol destruction of Baghdad. It wasn't random violence. It wasn't the chaos of conquest. It was a carefully planned demonstration of power designed to send a message to every kingdom on earth. Submit immediately, or we will erase you. Not just defeat you. Erase you. Think about what that means. What kind of systematic horror do you need to create to make entire civilizations surrender without a fight? What do you have to do to one city to make 100 other cities open their gates in terror? The Mongols knew exactly what they were doing. This was warfare as theater, conquest as messaging, destruction as communication. If you believe that understanding how power operates at its most brutal must be studied and remembered, consider liking this video and subscribing. Your support helps unearth the documented accounts of history's most calculated atrocities. Let me show you how the Mongols turned the destruction of Baghdad's ruling dynasty into a message that echoed across 3 continents. The year is 1257. You're Hulagu Khan, and you have a problem. You've conquered Persia. You've destroyed the assassins, a cult of killers who terrorized the Islamic world for generations. You've taken dozens of cities, but none of them were Baghdad. Baghdad is different. It's not just a city, it's the symbol of Islamic power. The Abbasid Caliphate has ruled the Muslim world for 500 years. Every mosque from Spain to India acknowledges the Caliph as the spiritual leader of Islam. Taking Baghdad isn't just military conquest, it's a statement. Your grandfather Genghis Khan had a principle. When a city surrendered immediately, the people lived and paid tribute. When a city resisted, everyone died. Simple, effective, terrifying. But here's what Genghis understood that most conquerors didn't. The real weapon isn't the army, it's the reputation. If people hear what you did to the last city that resisted, they'll surrender before you even arrive at the next one. That's efficiency. That's the Mongol way. Now you're standing at the gates of Baghdad, and you need to make a decision. How do you destroy this city in a way that creates maximum psychological impact? You send an ultimatum to the Caliph, Al-Mustasim Billah, 37th in the Abbasid line. The message is clear. Surrender immediately. Tear down your walls. Pay tribute. Acknowledge Mongol supremacy. Or D. Al-Mustasim makes a fatal miscalculation. He sends a defiant reply. He has 50,000 troops. He has walls that have stood for 500 years. He has the protection of God himself. He's the shadow of God on earth, the spiritual leader of Islam. What he doesn't have is any understanding of who he's dealing with. Here's what Al-Mustasim doesn't know. You have 150,000 troops. You have Chinese engineers who perfected siege warfare. You have artillery that can reduce his walls to rubble. And you have something more important than weapons. You have a plan. January 29th, 1258. The siege begins. Your engineers study the walls. They've spent months scouting Baghdad, identifying weak points. This isn't improvised. Every catapult position has been calculated. Every assault route has been mapped. The Mongols don't just attack, they dissect. Within 6 days you breach the outer defenses. Al-Mustasim sends his army to push you back. You let them come out. Then you surround them completely. It's not a battle, it's a slaughter. By February 5th, the Caliph has no army. By February 10th, your troops are inside the city. And here's where the demonstration begins. Here's where you start sending the message that will terrify the known world. You could just kill everyone. Mongol armies have done that before. Massacre every living thing and move on. But that's crude. That's not memorable enough. You need this to be educational. Think about the psychology. You're not just conquering Baghdad for yourself. You're conquering it for your brother Kublai, who's fighting in China. For your cousins who are raiding Europe. For future Mongol commanders who will approach cities and want them to surrender without a fight. This massacre has to be so systematic, so thoroughly documented, that it becomes legend. So you create a process. February 10th. You send a message to Caliph al-Mustasim. Come negotiate. Bring your family. You promise safe passage. He comes. He has no choice. The Caliph arrives with his sons, his wives, his daughters, his extended family, everyone with Abbasid blood. You receive them with elaborate courtesy. Tea is served, pleasantries are exchanged. Then you ask about the treasury. The Caliph tells you where it is. Of course he does. He's a scholar, not a warrior. He spent 16 years patronizing poets and building libraries, not preparing for siege. Your troops loot the palace. 500 years of accumulated wealth, gold, silver, jewels, manuscripts, art. It takes weeks to catalog everything. But here's where the real demonstration begins. Here's where you show every kingdom watching what happens when you resist the Mongol Empire. You separate the imperial family. Sons in one group, wives and daughters in another, extended family in a third. This isn't random. This is protocol. You've done this before in Persia, in Afghanistan, in Central Asia. When you destroy a dynasty, you do it systematically. You start with the extended family, cousins, uncles, nephews, anyone with a distant claim to the throne. They're executed in small groups over several days, not all at once, slowly, methodically. The executions are visible from where you're keeping the Caliph. You want him to see this. You want him to understand what's happening. You're erasing his bloodline, person by person, methodically. Here's what makes this a message rather than just murder. You're documenting everything. Your Persian advisors, scholars like Malik Juvani, are keeping records, names, dates, methods of execution. The entire process is being chronicled. Because what's the point of a demonstration if no one learns about it? The survivors from Baghdad will tell stories. The chroniclers will write accounts. Merchants will carry the news along the Silk Road. Within months, every kingdom from France to Japan will hear what happened to the Abbasid Caliphate. That's the message. That's the point. February 15th. You make the Caliph write letters. Letters to any remaining officials in Baghdad. Letters to governors in outlying provinces. Letters assuring everyone that if they surrender, they'll be treated fairly. The Caliph writes the letters. What choice does he have? His sons are still alive. His daughters are still alive. As long as they're alive, there's hope. He doesn't understand yet that there is no hope, that you're keeping his family alive specifically to use him. The officials believe the letters. They surrender. You execute them systematically. Think about the genius of this. You're using the Caliph, the spiritual leader of Islam, to make your conquest more efficient. Every letter he writes, every order he gives under your coercion, undermines his own authority. By the time you kill him, you've already destroyed what he represented. The legitimacy, the divine right, the 500-year legacy. All of it reduced to a broken old man writing letters to help foreign invaders. February 18th, the systematic massacre of Baghdad begins. Your troops divide the city into sections. Quarter by quarter, street by street, house by house, everyone dies. Men, women, children, elderly, it doesn't matter. The Persian chronicler Wasif, writing a generation later, Clay 800 after Christ, 0 people died. Modern historians think that's inflated. The real number was probably between 200,000 and 500,000. Still, the largest urban massacre in medieval history. But here's the thing, you're not killing everyone instantly. The massacre takes a full week. Why? Because you need the world to hear about it while it's happening. You need survivors to escape and carry the news. You need the massacre to be so prolonged that merchant caravans have time to spread the word. If it's too fast, it's just a rumor. If it's slow and systematic, it becomes verified fact. That's information warfare. Medieval style. Your troops throw bodies into the Tigris River until the water runs red for miles. They burn the libraries. The House of Wisdom, the greatest repository of knowledge in the world, goes up in flames. Hundreds of thousands of manuscripts, scientific treatises, mathematical texts, medical knowledge, poetry, philosophy, all of it destroyed. The survivors will say the Tigris ran black with ink from the books, and red with blood from the people. That's the image you want. That's the message. Resist the Mongols, and we will destroy not just your people, but your entire civilization, your history, your culture, your accumulated knowledge. We will erase you so completely that future generations won't even know what was lost. February 20th. The Caliph's sons are executed, not the carpet method. That's reserved for the Caliph himself. The sons are beheaded, one by one, while their father watches. According to Juveni, who was there, you make the Caliph watch his sons die before you kill him. Why? Because when this story spreads, and it will spread, every king, every sultan, every emperor who hears it will imagine themselves in that position, watching their sons die, watching their dynasty end, knowing they caused it by resisting. That's the message. That's the lesson you're teaching. After the sons are dead, the Caliph himself is executed. The method is specific. Mongol tradition says you don't spill royal blood on the ground. It offends the spirits. So he's wrapped in a carpet and trampled to death by horses. Some sources say he was kicked to death. Others say he was beaten while wrapped in the carpet, then trampled. The method varies in the telling, the outcome doesn't. The last Abbasid Caliph of Baghdad dies on February 20th, 1258. His bloodline, as far as anyone knows at the time, is extinct. 500 years of dynasty, erased in 10 days. But here's where the message becomes truly systematic. You don't just kill the immediate family. For weeks afterward, your troops hunt down anyone claiming Abbasid descent. Anyone with a genealogical connection to the caliphate. Distant cousins, in-laws. Anyone. If you can trace your lineage to the Prophet Muhammad through the Abbasid line, you die. This is dynastic annihilation as administrative science. You're not conquering Baghdad. You're creating a cautionary tale. And it works. Here's what happens in the months and years after Baghdad falls. Mongol armies approach other cities. Damascus, Aleppo, Jerusalem. And those cities surrender. Immediately. Without a fight. Why? Because they've heard what happened to Baghdad. They've heard about the Caliph's sons being executed in front of him. They've heard about the week-long massacre. They've heard about the libraries burning and the river running black with ink and red with blood. They've heard about the systematic destruction of a 500-year dynasty. And they think, that could be us. That's the message working. That's the return on investment for your systematic brutality. You destroy one city so completely that 100 others surrender in terror. It's efficient, it's calculated, it's exactly what your grandfather Genghis Khan taught you. Reputation is the weapon, fear is the ammunition. Here's what makes this especially disturbing. The Mongols didn't invent this strategy. They perfected it. They understood something about human psychology that modern militaries are only now rediscovering. It's called shock and awe. Overwhelming force applied so suddenly and completely that resistance seems futile. The Mongol destruction of Baghdad was the medieval version of nuclear deterrence. You demonstrate the weapon once, in the most horrific way possible, so you never have to use it again. And for a generation, it worked. Cities across the Middle East surrendered to Mongol armies without fighting. The reputation of what happened to Baghdad preceded every invasion. Think about that level of psychological warfare. You kill 200,000 to 500,000 people in one city, so that you don't have to kill anyone in the next 10 cities. From a purely military standpoint, it's genius. From a human standpoint, it's monstrous. But here's the thing, the message didn't last forever. In 1260, just 2 years after Baghdad fell, the Mongols invaded Syria and Egypt. They approached the Mamluk Sultanate expecting the same immediate surrender they'd received everywhere else. The Mamluks had heard about Baghdad. They knew what the Mongols could do, and they fought anyway. At the Battle of Ain Jalut in September 1260, the Mamluks defeated the Mongol army. It was the first major defeat the Mongols had suffered in decades. Here's what that tells us. The message worked. Fear is a powerful weapon. Systematic brutality can achieve strategic objectives, but only up to a point. Eventually, someone calls your bluff. Eventually, someone decides that dying in battle is preferable to surrendering and being systematically destroyed anyway. The Mongols learned a hard lesson. You can terrorize people into submission for a while, but if you make the alternative horrific enough, eventually they'll choose to fight. Still, for 2 years, the destruction of Baghdad achieved exactly what Hulagu Khan intended. It sent a message that echoed across the medieval world. Resist the Mongols at your absolute peril. They will not just defeat you, they will erase you, your family, your dynasty, your civilization, your very memory. That message is still echoing today. More than 750 years later, the fall of Baghdad in 1258 is still taught in history courses, from Morocco to Indonesia, as the end of the Islamic Golden Age. The House of Wisdom is still mourned. The lost manuscripts are still lamented. Historians still speculate about what knowledge was destroyed: mathematical theorems, medical texts, astronomical observations that wouldn't be rediscovered for centuries. The Mongols succeeded. They created a historical trauma so profound that it's still remembered nearly a millennium later. That was the message, and the message was received. Here's what haunts me about this story. The brutality was calculated. The systematic nature was intentional. The documentation was deliberate. The Mongols wanted the world to know what they did. They wanted chroniclers to write it down. They wanted survivors to tell the story. They wanted the reputation to spread. This wasn't the impulsive violence of rage or revenge. This was policy, strategy, messaging. The destruction of the Abbasid dynasty was theater performed for an audience of every kingdom on earth. And for a brief moment in history, it worked perfectly. If this moment in history doesn't move you to learn more, you might be missing the lesson. The lesson isn't that the Mongols were uniquely evil. Other empires have committed massacres. Other conquerors have destroyed cities. The lesson is about the systematic use of brutality as communication. The Mongols understood that, in the medieval world, where information traveled slowly and unreliably, you had to make your atrocities memorable, educational, so horrific that the story itself became a weapon. They turned conquest into a form of propaganda. Think about what that tells us about power, about how empires operate, about the calculated use of horror to achieve political objectives. This wasn't random. This was designed, and it worked for exactly as long as it was supposed to work. Here's the final twist. The Mongols didn't completely succeed in erasing the Abbasid dynasty. In Cairo, there was a distant cousin of the murdered caliph, Al-Mustansir II. He'd been in Egypt as an ambassador when Baghdad fell. The Mamluk Sultan saw an opportunity. He installed this prince as a shadow caliph, a figurehead with the Abbasid name but no real power. For 250 years, there was an Abbasid caliphate in Cairo. Powerless, ceremonial, a ghost of the Baghdad dynasty. But it existed. The Mongols destroyed the main line completely, but one branch, through sheer accident of geography, survived. Until 1517, when the Ottomans conquered Cairo and ended even that shadow caliphate. So in the end, the Mongol message didn't quite succeed. The dynasty survived in diminished form for another 250 years. But the city of Baghdad, the House of Wisdom, the cultural and intellectual capital of the Islamic world, those were destroyed completely, and they never recovered. Baghdad today is a shadow of what it was in 1257. The city that was once the intellectual center of the world is now known primarily for warfare and destruction. The Mongols won. Not completely, but enough. The message they sent in February 1258 is still being received today. Still being studied, still being remembered. Stand in Baghdad now. The ruins of the old city are barely visible. The Tigris River runs clear. The palaces are gone. The House of Wisdom is a memory. But the lesson of what happened here still echoes. Resist overwhelming power, and you may be erased. Not just defeated. Not just conquered. Erased. That was the message the Mongols sent by destroying Baghdad's ruling dynasty. And for better or worse, the world received it. If this exposed something you've never heard before, hit that subscribe button and turn on notifications, because we're going to keep uncovering the calculated horrors that shaped world history. Drop a comment with your thoughts on how the destruction of Baghdad changed the medieval world, and I'll see you in the next investigation.